Earth debate and live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Refracted Curvature, Brian's Logic, Neil, Click OK, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server, so welcome one and all.
You mean a whole bunch of charlatans?
Yeah, that's the way to start her up.
Yeah, we've had a bit of bad blood in the pre-show between the G Plus taxi and the Discord disco bus.
You mean peanut gallery?
What we refer to as the peanut gallery. Now, I often express my deepest gratitude to the immense amount of work that goes into maintaining a Discord server. Now, why do I do this? Because it's not mine. I put zero work in and just extract from it like a little leech. So I have to be very grateful and careful what I say here. But in the interest of good humour, having a little bit of rivalry between the general panel, which is my G Plus panel, and the Discord server is good. It's it's indicative of how the debate typically runs. There may be some impressions, although I don't typically see them, I don't watch, that there's some, I don't know, what's the word they use most typically? I do know this actually, echo chamber they'll suggest. On the contrary, we're arguing all day long internally, along with our debates with the rivals who come along now and again. More and more infrequently, let's be honest. But no, there is no just mandatory agreement, and far be it for anybody to join and say, I'm a flat earther, when they talk nonsense. It doesn't get you any points just because you're a flat earther. On the contrary, if you disclaim that to us, we'll want to know if you actually know Earth is flat, or are you just a pitiful flat Earth believer here to talk about the ice wall or the dome, and then you'll be chastised regardless of your flat Earth affinity. So let's just get that cleared up. So there is no immediate good blood that you must assume you have here. Nobody has that, not to my knowledge. Even in the G Plus panel, sometimes it's worse.
Yeah, it gets a bit vicious in here sometimes.
Nice that it's not you and Brian at each other's throats, John. Tends to be Brian often. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, because Brian's always right, and you're constantly.
Common denominator tends to suggest he's a troublemaker.
Yeah, it's nearly like he's promoting Christ-like behaviour.
I like arguing with Brian, though.
Michael Kahn did a nice little Bible verse that was talking about Christ's description of how the truth will divide. That is to say, if you're putting truth out, you cannot expect it to automatically gain fans on every side. No, it's going to divide. That's what the truth does to people. So when it comes to this Witsit thing, it's different because there's been very little impact on me, if I'm honest, because the blows have already been dealt when Bob Nodell did it years ago and stripped away me from what he called the Flat Earth community. In reality, kicked me out of what was now accurately described as the True Earth section of Flat Earth, who punt ether. So that's what I was chastised from. So over the course of the years in between, you've had Jaron calling me a scammer and various other levels in between. So when it comes to Witsit defending his blatant and egregious lies, there's still going to be people who want to align with him and therefore decry anything I do or say and appeal to me as an individual rather than the argument about what are we talking about? Ether, whether or not it's real. That's the main crux of what we're doing here, because we want to be true to reality. That's our purpose here as flat earthers. And we would hope that if anybody else is listening and calls themselves a flat earther, number one, they know it's flat, as opposed to believe it's flat. And number two, don't go around peddling garbage. Just because they've come across deceit in the world doesn't mean that you suddenly get the right to peddle garbage. It's infuriating. So when we point it out and get very passionate about the fact that there's people in our community that peddle garbage, and people just focus on, look how passionate you are, you're getting all angry and stuff. Very bad for you, Nathan. You're like, oh, bloody hell, here we go. Ether victim much. But yeah, it divides. Truth divides. So pointing out that there is no bleeding ether and it's just a complete bullshit lie is obviously going to cause a certain amount of division. Us pointing out in general that Earth is a spherical surface like you were taught in school? No, it isn't. Measured flat to give you that spherical surface to believe in. There is no spherical surface. It's all in your mind.
What do you mean it's measured flat? Can you explain?
Everything we do that will reference the ground is flat. Doesn't matter if you're flying over it, sailing over it, mapping it, charting it, building on it. It's all done flat.
Even when you calculate the curvature, you won't see. You do that flat too.
Yep, it all starts with a flat Earth genesis measurement for all instances that reference Earth. Why? Because Earth's flat. So I'll often go through searches to find... Sorry, go ahead, Neil.
So say like you want to get the height of certain mountains. It has to be done with the flat plane as you referenced, correct?
Well, if you're referencing Al-Biruni and his methodology using a bit of trig, then yeah, he's referencing a flat plane. I don't tend to make a habit of going out and measuring the heights of mountains, Neil. But there are specific globe references to tie this back to John's point, refracted curvature's point. That if you're going to infer sphericity, you're going to always measure a flat plane to do it. The calculations of a sphere come from flat plane measurements.
Well, I'm saying they have gotten the heights of all the mountains and hills and stuff like that. And how did they do that?
Yeah, we surveyed Earth flat.
It could not be done if we were on a ball.
Yeah, Earth surveyed flat. Navigated flat, charted flat, mapped flat.
Hey Neil, all of those mountains have one thing in common: sea level. They share the same baseline for the height.
Yeah, we've got a common reference. Is everyone aware that we've got a new housekeeping question?
Can we hear it?
Any evidence you can have pitch data on a globe?
Is there any evidence?
You can't. You need a horizontal plane for the pitch data.
I have evidence. Light. There's people flying out of LaGuardia, Kennedy Airport every day today, and they have pitch data. And if we weren't on a ball, there would not be any pitch data.
No, we're not asking about the acquisition of a piece of paper that's got pitch data as a heading to hand to someone else. We're talking about the data on the piece of paper with respect to pitch, Neil. That data requires a flat plane, not the piece of paper with the heading pitch data on it and getting it as you fly and saying, well, if I wasn't flying on a ball, I wouldn't be able to get this data. Well, let's have a look at the data and what that shows, because that's what we'll rely on. I like it, Neil. By devil's advocate, you can put yourself in the mind of a baller. We wouldn't be able to have this pitch data if it wasn't a ball. Show me how it would work on a flat Earth. What are you talking about?
Well, for pitch data to show to exist, then there would need to be a constant horizontal plane to reference to, covering the whole of the known Earth. Wouldn't there be? There's no way for it not to be, because planes fly in all directions. So the whole Earth would have to have
That pretty much ended.
that power has to parallel with sea level. So that means sea level has to be a constant horizontal plane. It's that simple.
Well, it has to. It
Sorry,
does.
being sea
It
level.
is. Pitch data is horizontal with surface level. It is with respect to a plane. And it is dealing with heights with respect to sea level. It is dealing with your pitch above the horizontal. All roads lead to a flat Earth. There is no contesting, arguing, disputing what pitch data represents. Earth is flat.
Well, it's pretty much over now. I guess
It
we can
always
all
was,
go
Neil.
home.
It's just more and more discoveries of how overt a road would lead to flat Earth when we come across it. And lo and behold, it does lead to a flat Earth. Let's just see how well lit it is for others to look down the road, to walk along it. This is a very well lit road. Pitch data is exceptional. Really good evidence.
Yeah, so that's an excellent housekeeping question, because you could never have that sphere. It's an impossibility.
What it's suggesting in the way it's asked is, can you have this flat Earth evidence on a globe? That's why it's so nicely self-contained. Even as a housekeeping question, it's ace, isn't it? Any evidence you can have pitch data on a globe? No.
Yeah. See, anything they do is going to involve them having to come up with a straight line that is then over the course of a flight, that straight line has to constantly change its own pitch in relation to that original straight line. That's all, you know
This is Brian trying to say. Brian's trying to say you have to make it different to what it is.
Yeah, that's what they have to do. You have to bend reality. That's what you have to do to make it mathematically happen in your mind on a globe. Yeah.
Yeah, but even mathematically, you're not doing it. Like you're turning the plane of reference and affixing the stars is all you're doing. You're holding the celestial sphere constant and turning the plane of reference is still a plane of reference. That doesn't change.
Yeah, so what he's saying is if you do
You're not actually-
suggest that you
Go on, sorry.
you ignore the data itself and then use the globe, well, what is the globe? Well, it's projected in a redundant or surplus to requirement manner, and the only actual function that's utilised in the inference that you can be travelling antipode to cause a problem with the pitch data that's flat is the celestial sphere. Well, fine, but if you're in the north or in the south, you're still flying over a flat plane and referencing what you got from a polar-centric system with regards to the angles to the stars that you're flying with respect to. So if you're going to say, well, these star positions or latitudes changing as I'm traversing the surface and it's curved as a result, you're like, no. As 10th Man went through on Monday, the curvature is only with respect to the perspective view you get of the stars when plotting out the celestial sphere, not the globe. They can take that information and create a redundant globe inside the celestial sphere, but you're still on the flat plane. That would be the equatorial plane, now renamed, if you're going to do it in that way. But then the globe itself is just a protractor. It's completely surplus to requirements, and you're not flying over the surface of it.
Yeah, there's one thing, though, I would have to disagree with Hank there, and I can show why my disagreement exists, is that they still need a radius, whereas what he's showing doesn't give them a radius. They had to get the radius from the measurement of longitude to begin with, which was a horizontal measurement. They had to back calculate it from that. Then they could use the perspective view of the sky and use PZX triangles, whatever. They're not triangles, but three intersecting circles in the sky. They could do it then, but they needed to have that radius first. Otherwise, they have no particular size that they can place make those three intersecting circles the correct size for what they need them to be. And on the surface of a ball Earth, they need to know the radius of that ball Earth.
Yeah,
and they
like
get
on
that
screen.
from
It's on screen now.
elevation angles to Polaris.
Yeah, like on screen. You've got to project through the ball, through the lights on the outside edge of this sphere. So the bigger sphere would have the stars on it. Well, you're projecting an angle from the plane that's bisecting this bigger and smaller sphere that's inside it that's alleged to be the globe. But you're taking angles with respect to a plane in both regards. And what are the angles to? The stars. You've then created the globe inside that. So to create a PZX triangle on the surface of the sphere, they've got to match the projected angles from the centre. Correct, Brian? I'm just reiterating what you've just said. Oh, yes,
Yeah, I
Nathan.
mean,
Good summary.
Yeah, they can. That's exactly. They have to have a radius to place that what they're trying to create from the sky on to know what size of a thing they're placing that onto. So they need a radius first. But
Yep.
once they have that calculated, that radius, then job's a good one.
Are you saying they get it from a great circle rather than the area of equal elevation minimum for Polaris? You said it was a longitude?
No, it's the great circle comes from the Polaris measurement. That's where they get the great circle from. If you measure a straight line distance from the GP point of Polaris to the equator, that's 5,400 nautical miles. If you go from the equator to 90 degrees south, that's another 5,400 nautical miles. That's one big horizontal line. That's what a longitude line is.
Right.
Now, if you look straight across in the North Pole at the next one, directly straight across from it, the next longitude line that's directly across from that one, let's just say, right? That's at it, right? If you take that measurement, right, from the North Pole to the South Pole, to the 90 degrees south, the opposite direction. Now, all you have to do is make the two south ends of those longitude lines meet underneath the North Pole, and you suddenly have a South Pole. When you make all the longitude lines do it, and that gives you a sphere of radius 3958 and change, which they rounded off to 3959.
Yeah, to do it, you need two antipodal planes. It's not just as simple as bending the lines down. You need to plot out the positions for the south, which are all distorted, with an inferred point.
It is just as simple as bending the lines down. That's all it is. You're just making a circle out of two straight lines. You have two measured straight lines that are opposing each other, and you're just making a circle out of those two lines.
Yeah,
That's
I
all you're doing,
appreciate.
and that gives them the
I get
radius.
that. That's why it's distorted, though, isn't it? If you're saying that's why all the points don't match, or not all the points, but a good chunk of them in the south don't match, is because they've basically pulled all the points of longitude in the south to a point, and then just tried as best they can to tally it up with an inferred south celestial point in the sky, and then matched again as best they can all of the points that are referenced with GPs at given times, and Bob's your uncle. But the distortions come because you're saying they pull all the longitude lines to a point in the south.
Yeah, that's why what the globe shows is out of alignment with UTC time, chronometers, things like that, because they can't use that. Let's say if you're a sailor using a chronometer, you can't deal with Australia as having 3 time zones through it, because Australia only has actually one. If you're between Newcastle and Perth, there's 2 hours of correct local time. That's what you have to deal with if you're using a chronometer. You can't say there's 3 when there isn't. There's only 2.
Right, and you're dealing with north with magnetic declination attached to match up with the distorted lines of longitude.
Well, they confuse people as much as possible. Do you know what I mean? They confuse people as much as possible and give people a load of complicated stuff to deal with. And that's why Hervey, the sailor, was even saying that it gets to a point where you're being sent in a direction that you're told is the direction you want to go, but you don't know you know what I mean? Just told magnetic declination says this is the way, kind of thing. When really what they're doing is they're changing your route. Bringing it to the same place, but changing your route, you know, this kind of thing.
Yeah, indeed. Certainly more prevalent to see that in the south than in the north. The north tends to just be okay, right?
Yeah, and there is supposedly there is celestial navigation south of the equator is more difficult as well, and then more difficult than north of the equator because there isn't as many celestial bodies to use. this is what they
Not
say.
only is
But
there
now
less, well, yeah, there's as we've expanded, we've got less of them. But moreover, if the positions are distorted on the maps, then you're going to have problems.
Well, you have to. I mean, if you're dealing with Australia and you're sailing a big sailboat, you can't give it 3 or 4 time zones that it doesn't have. You know what I mean? You can't do that. If you're using a chronometer, then it can only have 2 time zones between Newcastle and Perth or Sydney and Perth. It can only have 2 time zones between those 2 points, or 2 time zones for those 2, you know, for that 2,000 miles or whatever. If you're trying, if that's what I did when I did it with the diagram, I made Australia the correct size, and I showed where it was on the map, and it's correct size, and there's only one longitude line going through between, let's say, Sydney and Perth. You know, but when it's stretched out, it's the same with Tahiti and Hawaii. Tahiti should be, if you look at the Gleason's map, Tahiti is in the next time zone over from Hawaii, but it shouldn't be. It's actually in the same time zone. But they've stretched it so much that Tahiti is now into the next time zone by basically making a globe out of flat plane measurements, and that's what happens. You know what I mean? If you want to try and match the globe to a flat plane, you end up with all them distortions south of the equator. And the more south you go, the more distorted it gets.
Right. We do actually have a video to cover today. So it's one that we were going to cover on, I think it was it Monday that we were going to cover math? The math that proves the Earth isn't flat. Either event, we never actually got round to it because we did something else. I can't remember what. Anyway, we're going to cover this today. I can't remember who shared it with me. I think it was Vlad. Mush, did you share this originally?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that was shared that on Sunday night. We were supposed to do it Monday, but we found a better one for Tuesday. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
Did you finish the one from yesterday?
Yeah. The one with I can't remember her name.
Kim Iverson.
Something or other.
Kim Iverson.
Yeah, we covered the whole video yesterday. Check out yesterday's show if you want to see that. It's got her face on the thumbnail. Can't miss it. Actually, because we covered it yesterday, I think her face is on this thumbnail also. So there you go. Anyway, let's have a look. What's this videographer called? Zach what? Zach Star. So please let Zach know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, as is typically the case when we cover a video. We like to send our audience their way to share in the YouTube algorithmic love, giving them comments and views and all the stuff that YouTube videographers want, in the vain hope that they'll do the same for us if they do a response. But please let them know with a polite comment with a @ sign and then Nathan Oakley 1980, all one word, sent me. And then if you've done that after the fact, if you're doing this with a later call to action and we're already halfway through the response video, or you already know what's coming, let them know. They covered X, you might be interested, or whatever it is that you feel will direct that videographer our way, so that they can at the very least check out what we're saying about them. So this video is called The Math That Proves the Earth Isn't Flat. Cool. So, yeah, please let them know. There's a link to them going by. There's 90-odd people, 91 people watching. So if you're amongst the live stream audience, please share the show. No, I'm only kidding. Go and let them know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And hopefully Zach will be responsive and receptive to your comment. In the past, people have come along straight after the show and left comments and made responses almost immediately. Other comments that people have left have been critiqued by QE. So it might be that your comment ends up getting on a public live stream. So just be aware. So be polite. And hopefully your your comment won't immediately get just removed by the YouTube censor bots that don't like swearing and rudeness. Or indeed the videographer themselves. If you're rude to them, there's a good chance, if it was me, I'd probably just remove your comment. So don't be that person. Hopefully that's bought enough time for a few of you in the live stream audience to actually toddle along and let the videographer know that I sent you. Right. Who was it? Mush. Did you want to give us any preamble about this?
I haven't watched it, but I think it's going to be a good review video.
Outrageous. Right, let's get into it.
So
We'll have to I haven't sound checked this, so.
Years ago, Eratosthenes made a very accurate calculation for the circumference of the Earth. He had read that in Syene, Egypt, during the summer solstice at noon, vertical objects did not cast shadows, as in the sun was directly overhead, which is because that city is right by the Tropic of Cancer.
Well, what a great opener. Go on, no, go, feel free.
He invoked verticals with respect to a horizontal plane of reference. You can't use vertical if you're going to claim it's a sphere.
Boom. We all know where this is going.
But in Alexandria, he noticed on that day that vertical objects did cast shadows at roughly 7.2 degrees, which is...
With respect to a flat Earth, this is an elevation angle measurement. So we're taking an angle with respect to this shadow on a flat Earth. You will require a flat Earth for this. Earth is being measured flat with this. You just need a little bit of flat Earth to get you going. And then you can start talking about balls. But this is a flat Earth measurement, make no mistake. Earth is measured flat.
Is this angle here. Now, he assumed that Earth was a sphere, and all...
No, he did not. He just measured Earth flat. So what? He assumed that he was in hell with this angle, did he? Did he assume he was in hell? No, he was on the surface, measuring an angle with respect to it. It's called an elevation angle. He wasn't in hell. Now, making an assumption after measuring Earth flat is just kind of irrelevant and erroneous. It doesn't mean anything. What he did do is measure an elevation angle off a flat Earth. That's his only measurement. Now, after measuring Earth flat, he assumes he's in hell. Oh, dear.
Also, the sun is very far away.
Why would you assume that? He's just making an angle measurement. He doesn't have to assume its position in elevation. He just has to take an angle from it. Yeah? Measuring the angle because you're trying to determine where it's over, not how high it is.
Compared to the size of the Earth. And
sorry, how did we get the size of the Earth? I thought he was in hell measuring angles and deciding that light's coming in parallel. You've left that bit out.
That would mean that the sun rays are parallel.
Oh, I was just a little bit ahead of you, wasn't I, son? Yeah, we know your rhetoric pretty well.
Parallel.
Go ahead, John.
Parallel. How would you measure this parallel? Shadows you speak of.
He was then...
He's disclaimed this all as assumption.
Right, but the parallel shadows will be measured with respect to a flat plane as well.
Yes.
Able to calculate...
Sorry, go on, I thought you were finished.
No, I was just saying even that assumption requires Earth to be flat.
The circumference of the Earth with very simple math, because parallel lines with a line through them mean this angle and this angle are the same.
So the angle we're measuring is with respect to this line. It says this line. All right, no. We haven't got any lines that are travelling to Earth, and the actual angle was measured off the surface. So what we're dealing with is the angle that you measured off the surface that you've got to justify being in hell, so it makes sense to derive circumferential values.
So the angle separating the two cities is 7.2 degrees.
No. You weren't rotating the protractor when you devised the angle between the cities. You weren't in hell for the angle. What you did do was measure Earth flat with the angle. This inference after the fact in cartoon form isn't going to change the fact that you are not in hell. You have no parallel inference. Even if you did, you'll need a flat Earth to reference it to.
He then had someone measure the distance between the two cities, which was
a distance? What, linear distance? You seem to have drawn a curved line. Why? No. If you're going to be measuring distance, it's going to be linear.
About 800 kilometers.
Kilometers are linear. You've drawn a curve. Do you not know what you're saying? How stupid it is to draw a distance in a curved fashion? Have you never used a map and a scale?
So because 7.2 degrees is
a flat Earth measurement,
is 2% of 360 degrees.
So what if you're rotating a protractor rather than travelling linear distances? And why you're rotating a protractor and describing an angle measurement of a flat Earth like it's the rotation of a protractor? Oh, because you decided that parallel light meant that he's measuring the angle in hell. No, 7.2 degrees is not 2% of anything. It's a flat Earth angle measurement. The protractor you use to measure it isn't the globe Earth that you're standing in for this example. This is exceptional. You just stumbled on this by accident. You should have said, oh yeah, I'll watch this. Definitely worth covering, Mush. Should have lied. This is exceptional. Great. Great work. You can show people how they blag you're in hell, lie about parallel light coming in to justify it, and measure Earth flat in the first instance.
Then the 800 kilometers would be 2% of the circumference of the
No, kilometers are linear. They're not 2% of a circumference. Then they wouldn't be linear.
Earth. Thus, the circumference is roughly 40,000 kilometers.
No, it's a violation of the original angle measurement. That's what the circumference is in this instance. If you're claiming it's the surface, then you're violating the surface you measured flat for the angle in the first place. Our resident mathematician. How you doing, Adam?
Afternoon, guys. Not pretty bad. What are we up to?
Measuring Earth flat.
And the actual circumference of the Earth is super close to that. His actual measurements gave something close.
Where do we get the actual measurements? Have we got something to compare to? Obviously, he's going to give us his reference, his baseline, the actual measurements, and where we got that next, right?
Closer to 39,000 kilometers, but still quite
So where are we getting that number?
impressive.
Impressive because you've compared it to an actual measurement? You've just taken a flat Earth angle. So where's the actual measurement? Because if it's impressive, I want to see the original reference that you're saying you're comparing it to. We're not going to do that.
Now, two things to note.
That you haven't given us a reference to compare it to demonstrate how impressive it is when you turn a linear distance in kilometers into something that curves because it's the outside edge of a protractor that you've called the globe Earth, with you measuring angles inside it. You're not in hell, mate. Is this clear? 7.2 degrees is not the rotation of a protractor. It's an angle measurement off the surface. Is everyone getting this? Earth's measured flat for this example of a globe Earth measurement.
First, this only works if the cities are on the same longitude line.
What's a longitude? Where do we get those?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Yeah, you're going to need a flat Earth for these too. It's shocking how coincidental it is when Brian and I were only discussing it minutes before we started playing the video. How utterly useful. What a coincidence.
Or said another way, they're directly north and south of one another.
North and south? You can't use those words on a globe. They have north and south on a globe. They're with respect to a plane. Stop using our flat Earth language.
These cities are not, but they're pretty close. So that's one reason for the error along with human measurement. But second and...
Sorry, the measurement was off a flat plane. You're describing the angle as being in hell. Can you not see your own diagram? Was it not accurate when he was in the fiery, writhing hell pit? No, you justified it as somehow having light coming in parallel and then going to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth and violating not only the original measurement but the linear distance in kilometres you gave.
More importantly, this does not prove the Earth is a sphere.
That proves it's flat. You measured it flat.
At least on its own. It does.
On its own, you could just measured Earth flat. So if we're going to take anything to prove anything, it's going to be the measurements that you actually took off a flat Earth. So if this is proving anything, it's proving it's flat. Definitely, I mean, kudos. It's not proving Earth's a sphere. It's begging the question of a sphere and having you put angles you measured off a flat Earth in hell. In a presupposed globe. That is actually the protractor if the angle's inside it.
Does not prove the Earth's shape. Not even slightly. If the Earth were...
Well, I don't know about the word shape. Flat is an aspect, not a shape. It proves the aspect of the Earth that you measured is flat. It can't be anything else. That's how you measured it.
a donut, we'd still find a
Oh,
difference.
this is non sequitur. Sorry, if you're putting the angle in the centre of the donut, you haven't got any hell to writhe in. If it's a polo mint.
Difference in shadow angles between two.
So where's this angle vertices terminating? You know what an angle is, son? Two straight lines meeting at a vertex. So where's the vertex in your donut? Am I missing something? Do you not know what an angle is? It's not measured inside a donut or measured inside a sphere. then the donut becomes a glorified protractor also, doesn't it? What you are doing is measuring an angle with a protractor on the surface. But then you haven't got an angle to get if the surface is curved. You haven't got two straight lines. It violates the definition of an angle. Two straight lines meeting at a vertex.
Two different locations at the same time. That's just gonna happen if the surface is curved. But let's say the Earth were flat. Well, if the sun is directly over one place at a certain time where
Right, your example's the same. This is the same as last time. Yeah, they're both angle measurements.
no shadows are cast,
But why are you telling us about what the shadows would do? You're measuring the shadows flat in both instances, aren't you?
and the sun is not super far away, then also, obviously, it's gonna cast a shadow on a vertical object at a different location.
You haven't got vertical objects on a globe. See how these two things are parallel with one another? That doesn't happen on a globe. You see how you've got an angle off a flat surface? That doesn't happen on a globe either. And it didn't happen on your first example. Notice how we pointed out that you were measuring a flat Earth there? Well, you're still measuring a flat Earth here. You're just saying because the sun isn't doing something that it would do if it was flat. You're measuring it flat in both instances, dum-dum.
At that same time. So Eratosthenes' observation could also tell us the Earth is flat and the sun.
No, it's measured flat in both instances. It only showed Earth flat. And then you made some assumptions about being in hell and stuff. Please let Zach know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Feel free to let him know. Your examples measured Earth flat. His link is going by in the YouTube chat right now, so please let him know. With a polite comment, just lets him know we've responded to his video and thank him for showing how Earth is always measured flat. It doesn't really matter how you assume the sun shouldn't be doing this when we measure it
Isn't it
flat,
funny
but
how
is doing that, therefore we're measuring it flat, but could be a sphere if I put myself in hell. Go ahead, Neil.
I said, isn't it funny how my Bluetooth is acting up? Isn't it funny how they say it could also work on a flat Earth?
It only works on a flat Earth. It's an angle measurement. Both of them were.
Yeah, but they thought like this could also work on a flat Earth. No, it can only work on a flat Earth.
Correct.
It can never happen on a ball.
Yeah, the inference after the fact violates the original measurement. So when you say, oh, well, this can be calculated into a globe, if I just assume I'm inside a globe, and I'm inside a globe because all the light comes in parallel, and I'm assuming that the Earth's a sphere. Sorry, so number one, you're begging the question of the thing you're trying to prove. Number two, you're violating the angle you took off a flat surface. And number three, you're now writhing in hell, and the Earth is now the protractor you measured with. But that works. No, it doesn't. You violated the original angle measurement. Meaning that when you ascribe distance, like kilometres to it, you've suddenly got them curving when they're linear. Everything about it breaks when you claim the Earth's a sphere. Meanwhile, if you just take angle measurements off the surface, you can derive all of the maps and systems that we use to navigate. That's how they work. So, what, it doesn't work on a flat? No, it only works on a flat Earth. Could work on a flat Earth? No, it only works on a flat Earth.
Is much closer than we think. And that's.
No, he's talking about what the sun should or shouldn't be doing as he measures Earth flat. And because the sun is or isn't doing something, it's not flat, as he measured it flat in both instances. Who cares what the sun's doing? It does what it does, and we're taking angle measurements with respect to it.
That's what flat earthers believe. And now we're gonna see why it's wrong. We're gonna use the same numbers Eratosthenes found, which anyone can find themselves, at least during the next summer solstice. But we'll assume for now the Earth is flat and the sun is close-ish.
Who cares how far it is? Makes no difference. You can't measure its height. You can't acquire it. So to infer it, we'd chastise you as a flat earther if you were to infer this. It's obviously a straw man. We're not claiming this. We're pointing out the angle measurement's always flat. But you're now talking about what the sun does and how it should or shouldn't behave based on what the Earth and its surface. You're talking about the sun now. Oh, well, if we assume it's close, doesn't matter how far it is. It does what it does.
So here's Syene, which the sun is directly overhead, casting no shadows. And here's Alexandria, 800 kilometers away, where
So notice he's got his straight distance. Yeah? Yeah. Linear. 800 kilometers, you say? Yeah, you'll need a flat Earth for that too.
Shadows cast at an angle of 7.2 degrees from the vertical.
Yeah, with respect to a vertical.
Angle?
Angles with respect to vertical. Verticals with respect to horizontal perpendicular to it. You're going to need a flat Earth for this. So is it somehow going to change? Because we've already seen the globe's version of this and it's the same, isn't it? Yeah? Angle measurements off a flat Earth. So...
Well, if we assume...
Go on.
If we assume that there is a knowable distance to something that's defined as unknowable within our diagram, we can then prove the horizontal plane is not a horizontal plane.
Yeah, exactly. I've put it the other way, which is you've got to violate the original measurement. You do assume, you will assume, and they have assumed, and that's how it's done, a flat plane in the first instance. But you're suggesting it the other way around. What, you assume that you're not measuring a flat plane? Well, then you've got no starting point.
Well, you know the way they say, oh, that the celestial bodies are an infinite distance away. And they say this because they need to make a mitigation as to why when you rise in altitude, the celestial bodies appear to rise with you, right? Or when you lower, they appear to lower with you. Kind of funny, a bit like the horizon. But the thing is that, why do they say this? For a start, there's no such thing as infinite. So they just won't admit that they have no idea what they are. But they're trying to give them some kind of tangibility. So when they say they're an infinite distance away, that's giving them tangibility. Like, you know what I mean? You're basically saying they're tangible without knowing that. Because for them to be a distance, they'd have to be tangible, wouldn't they? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
how do you determine
absolutely.
the distance to something if it doesn't have any tangibility?
Right. That's like trying to figure out where the pot of gold is on a rainbow. That's what he's trying to do right now. And because he can't find the pot of gold, Earth isn't flat. That's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah, it's nonsense, isn't it? It's like, what about if we started claiming as flat earthers that the celestial bodies are at an adequate distance away, right? They'd be up in uproar if we start. They're just at an adequate distance away, right? We don't know what this. It's just an adequate distance. Never come up with an actual distance. Just an adequate distance.
I think it was Rolls-Royce. Rolls-Royce used to describe, you know, where people put on their stats how much horsepower the engine's got. Right? I think that's what Rolls-Royce used to put. Instead of a number, they'd put adequate.
Yeah, how popular would that statement be with our opposition? They'd be in uproar about it, wouldn't they? Because we're making a statement that would suit us in a debate against them at that point. You know, we're not giving any distance. We're just saying it's an adequate distance.
Sufficient.
But it's okay for them.
They're a sufficient distance.
Sufficient, yeah. But it's all okay for them to make the claim that they're an infinite distance away, which is still a distance.
They're double speaking. They not only have them, or must have them when they're in the celestial sphere by reference with angles, infinitely distant, because there is no distance. They don't have a distance. That's nonsense. That's not part of their aspect. That's not part of their being. It's not part of their useful nature. If it was, they wouldn't be useful in the way we use them. If they changed angle as we raised up, they wouldn't be useful anymore. We wouldn't navigate with them. Because they don't, who cares why they don't? For them, they've got ascribed distances and the need to have them be infinite, both simultaneously.
Which can't be possible. Infinite is unknowable by definition.
Right. But
So,
in a perspective view, you can plot them on a sphere and say that that's an infinite distance. It's just a conceptual way of describing them when you plot them on a sphere in the celestial sphere model.
And we can use this information to find how far the sun is in this model.
So let me get it straight. You've not only shown that we measure it flat in both instances, now you're suggesting that when we do this, we're trying to find out how high the sun is. So previously we weren't trying to do that when we were trying to reference a globe that we assumed we were writhing in hell to get angles that we got off a flat surface to square the circle of a globe we've assumed. But now we're trying to get the height of the sun. I think you're mixing up your straw men.
If we add some lines, we see two similar triangles.
What, like you would on the globe surface? No. Yeah, you're getting angles and triangles for both examples, and both require Earth be flat for the measurement. They're both flat Earth measurements. But now the angle measurement is to get the sun's height and get it to be local. And nobody needs it to be local. It's just a straw man.
So we could do a ratio, but I'm just going to use the fact that this angle is 82.8 degrees. So tangent of that equals the height of the sun over 800 kilometers plus d. But d is just the length of the shadow.
Even within his rhetoric, they don't think they have the actual height with respect to a flat plane. So why is he trying to do this again?
So it's a straw man to say, look, they can't get the height. It's like originally we're not proving a sphere by disclaimer, but now we're not dealing with the surface with getting the height of the sun by a straw man that flat earthers can't do. So neither can you. So this process is no different on either. You've shown it the same on both. Both were angle measurements off the flat surface. But you can't get the height. I'm not saying you can get the height. You say it's 93 million miles / infinite. But using this method, it turns out that your method is flawed for the height you need to make a claim about being 93 million miles or infinite. So you've got a height measurement that doesn't work with this process that does work. It's an angle off a flat surface, just not for measuring the height of the sun. And we're not claiming you should. But you are. What's that? No, it's you doing this. No, this is a straw man, but you are doing it, aren't you? Literally. I'm not doing this, you are. Therefore, you take ownership of this, regardless of your straw man nature. So it fails to give you the height. Well, that buggers up you saying it's 93 million miles / infinite, if you're going to use this process, as you are, in spite of telling the audience, deceptive, that it's me that can't do this. It's the same method for both. So we're definitely measuring flat Earth angles, and it definitely works. It's definitely used. It was used when you inferred longitude. Where do you think that came from?
This is very not to scale, but that distance might be a few feet or meters, depending on the height of the building, but still nothing compared.
Sorry, what building would that be? Is this guy just mixing up his shite? What building? Height of the building? Aren't we trying to get the height of the sun?
Shadow on this.
Say again.
He's talking about the whatever object that will cast a shadow.
Oh, he's using the object in the... Yeah, fine.
Compared to 800 kilometers, so we can just ignore it. Then we solve this, and we get the height of the sun is about 6,332 kilometers.
Is it? What happens if you raise up a few feet? Does the angle change? No, it doesn't. Oh, well, that invalidates everything you've just said. I mean, I know that as a flat earther, but you inferring this... What about if you measured the height of the sun at a different time of day with a reduced angle? What if you measured it at sunset? Is the height of the sun 1 kilometre from smashing into the... This is stupid.
1 kilometre.
For reference, the International Space Station is just
an object that's claimed to be in a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. If this area that's blue is the area that they claim the ISS is in, and this is a containerless high-pressure system, then we'd have never developed pressure. The gas on the surface would dissipate into this area, and everybody on the surface would be choking to death, because these share the same volume, don't they? So the gas would fill the space. So whatever you now suggest about this tin can in a sky vacuum will be automatically debunked by the second law of thermodynamics. If the sky was a vacuum, blue area, then the gas we breathe would fill the space in line with entropic dispersion law.
Just over 400 kilometers away.
Sorry, 400 kilometers is with respect to a flat plane. That's its height above sea level, if you're going to infer it. Now, you're not going to, because you don't know what the ISS is. But you're going to have your just so story where it's a tin can in a sky vacuum, and its height will be from sea level. So you'll need a sea level for this up to be perpendicular to. And it is absolutely described from sea level. So you need sea level. You need a flat Earth for this. There is no up on a ball to give you 400 kilometers away from. You need perpendicular to a horizontal plane to give you up, to give you height. And how is height described? That would be elevation from sea level. So you need a flat Earth for this up and height. My God. Do you want to hijack any more flat Earth conceptions? In this case, altitude and elevation. Because you just keep using flat Earth only descriptions like this. 400k. That's from a flat Earth. Go ahead, Brian.
The Eratosthenes trick is very good because they have people measuring off a flat plane, getting the angle they need from a flat plane, getting a distance from a flat plane, or the distance along a flat plane, I should say. And then they have them denying the very plane they use to get the measurement. When you go through the whole circle of it, you end up back, if you follow their logic, you end up back on a globe. You end up, on a globe, denying that the surface that you're on had to be flat or horizontal to make the measurement you made to measure the globe. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so convoluted, but it's a brilliant trick. You know what I mean? People are so easily fooled where they laugh at the idea of a flat Earth. Yet that's the very thing they needed to make the measurement to come up with an ad hoc radius for a globe that they're not on. Pretty good, pretty good.
Way. So the sun would be about 15 times further than that in the flat Earth model.
Height above sea level is true for everyone. There is no height above globe level. It seems like you have different points off a sphere for your heights. Yeah, that's why they're both with respect to the same horizontal plane of reference. So if you zoom in on this picture, what you'll notice is he's got this point coming down from the sun at a different point, which all points on a sphere would be. Well, you can't have them individually referenced with their height, that's elevation. A kilometre references to curves. Nobody references heights above curve level. There is no such thing, it's an oxymoron. It's height above sea level. Hence this fails on a globe, but is absolutely a prerequisite to describe the elevation always for everyone. You'll need a flat Earth for this. Earth is and always will be measured flat. You just keep using our flat Earth only references. For example, but not limited to, this example, height. It's elevation off sea level.
And that is a problem. Let's see why. First of all, at noon, if you're in a place where the sun is right above you, then as we found, the sun is 6,332 kilometers away from you. But how far away would it be at sunset or sunrise? Well, according to this...
Doesn't that balls up your entire base principle, because then the angle's changed? I had it laughingly crashing into the horizon at sunset. You seem to have failed to mention that. That changes the angle, doesn't it?
The sun and moon never change height. They just move.
Well, there's a baseless assertion for you. What's the sun? How high is it to say it doesn't change that height that you don't know? So far, you, not me, have given us 3. 6,000 odd K, 93 million miles, and infinite. Now, none of these are my claim. I know the angle doesn't change as you raise in elevation, which means it has a property that you can't ascribe physical height to. And when you tried to do it, your methodology was so flawed. Oh, you didn't even notice your own flaw, did you? You put it at sunset. What a clown. Have you thought this through?
You know, when a calculation contradicts measurement, you can be sure that calculation is wrong.
In a circle. And if we stop it here...
And what's this? This looks like an azimuthal, equidistant, North Pole-centric globe projection. Why are you telling me about what the sun and moon do on a, quote, flat Earth, according to this straw man, where you derive the height in a fallacious manner that's flawed to give a value that doesn't match the other 2 values you also claim, infinite and 93 million miles? Why are you using a globe projection? This is a globe projection. it distorts the lines of longitude described earlier by Brian quite excellently, I might add, and projects them out to a point where you have what is described as Antarctica, an ice island, projected out in this circle. I mean, that's its distorted manner when you project out a globe in a conical manner, North Pole centric. I mean, why is he strawmanning us with this? I don't get it. He just hasn't done his research, has he? You haven't done your homework.
This would be sunset in Egypt, where the sunlight is about to go away, which happens when the sun is actually over South America.
Okay. In the distorted south part. Okay. If this is a fail, it's a fail for a globe projection.
Okay, so if you're in Egypt on the summer solstice at noon, then the sun is this far above your head. On that same day, at sunset, the sun is above maybe Brazil, which is, let's say, 10,000 kilometers away.
So a linear distance along a flat plane, but we're now describing not the angles that we measured in Alexandria or Cyan, but the height reference above these places. How is that practically applied? Is that what he was doing when he made the measurements off a flat Earth with angles? It's a straw man.
Yes.
Dead.
It's going to the sky.
Using the Pythagorean theorem, that means the sun is now 11,836 kilometers away from you. It got almost twice as far compared to noon.
So the original derivation of its height using an angle is now ignored, and then you put it at that height at your zenith. It wasn't at your zenith when you measured its height with an angle, but now when you put it over a different distance and apply a linear flat Earth distance to it based on its height, you can derive a different triangle on a flat Earth. Okay, this is riddled.
That means at noon, the sun should appear to be about twice as big compared to...
Sorry, now we've got its actual representation based on its perspective view in perspective size. That's angular size, would be twice the size. Why? Where's he getting this from? This is so disjointed. Does he think he's being smart by just convoluting three different examples together?
Sunset or sunrise, because it's about half the distance away.
So, originally we're deriving radial values with flat Earth measurements. Now we're getting height above various positions with an inferred angle-derived height above a plane with angles and linear distances. This is crap.
But that's not what anyone observes. The sun does not change size at all throughout the day.
Does it not? I've got plenty of demonstrations of the perceived angular size with filters changing of the sun. What are you babbling about? So if I can debunk that, I debunk your method. I could debunk it already, and it all relied on having flat Earth angle measurements applied, even in the straw man of the sun.
Definitely not by that factor. Everyone...
But because the sun doesn't change in angular size, Earth's not flat. That's his conclusion, isn't it? Am I missing something? Did I miss a step? Because the sun doesn't change in angular size, it can't be the height flat earthers say when we derive a height with a fallacious angle, therefore Earth isn't flat. I'm pretty sure I included everything. Am I wrong? In this shitty straw man?
That's about it, yeah.
Oh, that's pathetic.
Everyone on Earth sees the sun as the same size, and that can only happen if it's very far away relative to the size of the Earth. So that alone...
Where'd you get the size of the Earth? From flat plane angle measurements? That's where you derived your radial value. But you said that it wasn't giving you the shape of Earth. So when you inferred it in hell, where'd you say it's comparable when you give this fallacious argument for angular representations of the sun not changing, therefore it can't be a flat plane when we compare the angles on a flat plane for the height that we decided it would be when we use one fixed angle and ignored the fact that it gets closer to the horizon or above our head at our zenith?
Alone contradicts a sun that's nearby, which contradicts...
Oh, well, therefore, if it's not nearby, Earth's not flat.
The flat Earth model.
Right, genius. You're a total idiot.
And if you're going to say, well, the sun is bright, so it's hard to see its true size...
Sorry, I'm a flat earther, and at no point do I stand up and make this stupid idiot claim that you're using to burn as a straw man. Do I go around like a total idiot saying, see how bright the sun is? You know why that is? it's because Earth's flat. And they turn around and go, nah, it would be much bigger if Earth were flat. What kind of demented conversations do you think I have as a flat earther? You think I'm looking at the sun? No. If I was at all altitudes measuring the sun to find out where the hell I was if I was lost, for the sake of argument, I'd be using its angle with respect to a plane to establish my location with tried and true methods of angle measurements off flat planes, like you used. So we're proving Earth's measured flat. That's very useful for not dying and stuff.
Well, everything I just said applies to the moon as well. The fact that the moon does not change size by nearly a factor of 2 throughout a single day proves it cannot be as close as this model predicts.
But models don't make predictions. Number one. Number two, this is not a model. It's an azimuthal, equidistant, North Pole-centric globe projection. You don't even know what model means. Oh, what a dingbat. So because the moon doesn't change its size, Earth's not flat because of this model. This is crap. He's not even summarising his own crappy point that he's ambled his way along. I've done a better job of summarising it. Now we're juxtaposing it with it can't be this model. Right, okay.
And since I'm showing math here,
So since I'm showing math, God, I'm turning into QE. Every second word has to be addressed. You're not showing math. You're showing an azimuthal, equidistant, North Pole-centric globe projection. That's what you're showing. Math.
angular size of objects actually does not change in direct proportion to how close they are.
My God, did he just deny perspective? Stuff doesn't change in angular size based on how far away it is. So if I hold up a little toy cow and show you out the window a full-size cow in the distance, and they look pretty much the same size, you're going to hold true with that statement that you just made. Let's just hear that again.
And since I'm showing math here, the angular size of objects actually does not change in direct proportion to how close they are. It's easy to see in the 2D case, like here the angular size of the object is 90 degrees. That's how much of the field of view is taken up. If the distance to the object is halved, well, the angular size is obviously less than 180 degrees.
Are you crapping me? He's giving us a perspective demonstration in an orthographic view. You having me on?
Yeah. Yeah. There's no perspective in orthographic view.
This guy is thick as... I haven't got a beep.
So it did not double in size.
What the hell are you babbling about, you complete idiot?
However, this approximation is very accurate.
Is it really? So when describing my perspective view, do I, or do I not typically, see the side of my own head? Please let Zach know that what he thinks is an accurate description of perspective includes him seeing the side of his own head. You stupid boy. Link to Zach's video with his demonstrable idiocy is going by in the live stream chat right now. There's well over 100 people watching. Please let Zach know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Try and be polite. Try, do your best to not berate his utter stupidity for this. Accurate? Yeah, generally when I'm describing how I see things in perspective, I don't use examples of seeing a small cow close up and a big cow far away. I'd describe seeing the side of my own head. What a clown!
When the object is very far away relative to its size, which is the case for the sun and moon. They only take up about...
Where's the side of my own head in this actual view of reality with the moon in it? So I don't seem to see my own head, mate. What's happened? Was your very accurate maths suddenly not matching up with reality because there's no side of my own head? What's going on? Did you not observe that in your own editing? Did you not see the disconnect that's happening right now? you stupid boy.
Half a degree in our field of view.
Field of view? Do I generally have my own head in my field of view with your very accurate orthographic representation? What a dingbat.
The way I like to think about it is
with orthographic views and being in hell.
with arc length. A piece of the circumference.
You like to think about arc lengths, do you? Sorry, Brian, a distance is given in arc lengths?
They are not.
Why do you like to think of distances as arc lengths, you stupid boy? Why would you like to think of angles being in hell, you stupid clown? Is it because that's what your globe religion taught you?
Circumference of a circle is calculated simply as
Nathan.
S equals R theta.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah. Every single part, and this is always the way with this same type of video about Eratosthenes and the celestial bodies in general. Every single part of their attack on us, on the flat earth, involves the celestial bodies being tangible items that they can give a distance to. Every single time they attack us, it's always that. It's like you don't have any tangibility that you can prove or disprove, and you can't measure a distance to something. It's if as you rise, the angle to it doesn't change. That means you have zero knowledge to work with. All you have is the terrestrial angle. That's it. So every single one of these straw man arguments that they build up, they're all based off of the pre-assumption that they're looking at a tangible object, which they might be. I don't know what it is, but all I know is you can't measure a distance to it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I mean, you chuckled when I described it becoming near the horizon, but you were the first to point that out to me, because I'd never really considered it. But do you want to just break that down? I mean, I did it in a very jovial, summary type manner.
What do you want me to break down?
Just explain how his method's flawed when he's acquiring the angle, a fixed point above cyan, and taking that measurement and suggesting that he can extrapolate out the height. It's like, what happens when you do the same exact measurement and the sun's at sunset?
Yeah, well, I mean, that means the height is going to be completely different. If he does it an hour later or an hour beforehand, he's going to get a different height if he does it that way. You can't use using trigonometry to gain a height to a celestial body, or with the celestial bodies in that way off of the terrestrial surface of Earth, is working outside the convention. And the convention exists in the way it exists because it has to exist that way. Because the celestial bodies do not behave like terrestrial objects. So you can't treat them like that.
Precisely.
But more to the point, to pull this apart, and I should have really said it earlier, but now is probably a better time. What happens when the moon is over the well in Cyan? And it's at the same point, height above the Earth for someone in Alexandria. What happens then? And your measurement is 7.24 degrees.
I've just
What
gone through
happens
the
then?
rest of his video. It's just the same piss in a different bottle all the way through the video. No,
Yeah,
it's just,
because it's bad moon shadow at that point.
yeah, but what I'm just
Bad
saying
moon
is
shadow. The whole heliocentric model falls apart with that.
the entire thing is your typical begging the question, perspective hijacking, and utilization of orthographic view, moving angles to hell. I mean, it's what he's doing. At various different points, he's describing angle acquisitions off flat planes. But in terms of
can I
his...
just make the point with the bad moon shadow? Just so
Yeah,
people,
go ahead.
because people that may not be aware of it.
Sorry, it's because I'm well aware of it. Yes, go ahead. Good point.
Yeah, because people may not realize why it destroys heliocentrism. And just for this guy, when the moon is in the same position above the well in Cyan, which it will be at some points in the year, and it's at the same angle for somebody, because it's at the same height above the same perceived height above the terrestrial Earth as the sun, and the angle from Alexandria to the moon at that point is 7.24 degrees. What does that mean? That means that I could claim that the moon is over 860,000 miles in diameter and 93 million miles away, and the sun is about 1,000 or 2,000 miles in diameter and 35,000 miles away. or sorry, 135,000 or whatever it is in the globe model. Or I could claim both of them are both really big and far away. Like they're both over 800,000 miles in diameter, and they're both 93 million miles away. Or I could claim both of them are small and local. And nobody, and I mean nobody, can disprove it. Because the bad moon shadow tears apart what they need for their heliocentrism. Because even the shadow angles from their moon, right, and as it was pointed out to me after the presentation, the shadow angles from their moon will give you the same shadows as their sun. So the sun doesn't need to be that big and far away, because you'll get the exact same shadows if it was in the position of the moon or on their globe. So the whole lot falls apart. They literally can't then prove that the moon is not where the sun is claimed to be in their paradigm, and the sun is not where the moon is, or they're both both where the sun is, or they're both just small and local over a flat plane. And they can't argue, because they have nothing.
This is a presentation I would love with actually, video documentation from, like, imagine during the right time, like three of us got together and really, recorded some things.
You're going to have to be more specific. Bloody hell, you and Neil.
Yeah, that's
be less vague.
How the hell is that vague? We talk about bad moon shadow in theory, right? Or in, you know what I mean? Instead, like, okay, so for 99% of the community, the Black Swan is the presentation we gave. For me, the Black Swan is when I went to Coney Island Beach. That's what I'm saying. Turn bad moon shadow into a real situation.
Yeah, but it's kind of, for what we're using it for, it's kind of like what the real situation is when you see the full moon out. Do you want the real situation? When you see the full moon out, right, and you see the shadows, or it doesn't have to be a full moon, but just the full moon is the best for the shadows. And you see all the shadows that the full moon creates. That's the exact same shadows as the sun. It's so much exact.
Doesn't it have to be on the equinox or something?
Perfectly. Just one second. I just want to say it's so much exact that, as Adam found out, the full moon works perfectly with a sundial. There's even a moon dial that is a sundial, but it takes in the phases of the moon. But it's exactly the same. So that's impossible within their paradigm. For their paradigm to hold true as it is. Go on, Peter.
Does it have to be done like at a specific time of year? Like
no,
if we were going to do
you've got to make sure you've got enough moonlight to be able to cast a shadow. So any time of the year is fine, as long as there's sufficient ability to generate a shadow on your Vavel, as they're called, for the moon.
Well, then that kills them then.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Well, it kills them because their claim is that the sun, for the shadows that Eratosthenes referenced, the sun had to be 93 million miles away and over 800,000 miles in diameter or whatever, right? But this proves that the same exact shadows are created by the moon, even though, in fairness, geometrically, those exact same shadow angles will work with their moon, right? Once you go from the center of their moon, it will work with their moon hitting the surface of their globe, right, and give them the same shadows. There's only a small little tiny bit in it, but it's basically imperceivable, right? It's a small little bit in it with their globe, but it's basically imperceivable. Whereas in reality, it's completely imperceivable. So the point being is that their initial claim is that their globe was measured by Eratosthenes, and the reason they know it's a globe is because the sun is really big and far away. But the moon being able to give them the exact same shadows means the sun is not big and far away. They have no evidence. Like, if you know what I mean, not that they had any evidence to begin with, but the whole claim falls apart. Because they can't prove, if I said that moon is 93 million miles away and over 800,000 miles in diameter, and the sun we see is only 135 or 35,000 miles away and 1,000 or 2,000 miles in diameter, they literally can't disprove that. I could say we're on a globe and the moon and the sun are switched, basically, and they can't disprove it. You know what I mean? That means, or I can put both of them, make both of them really big and make both of them 93 million miles away, and they can't disprove that. I can place myself on a globe and do that, and they can't disprove that. Or I can say they're both small and local over a flat plane, and they can't disprove that. But I can prove, right, with the shadows from both the full moon and the sun, or just the moon in general, but the full moon is best, that the shadows are exactly the same.
Yeah, I can hear them saying, at best, you just debunked the distance we claim the sun and the moon are.
yeah. At best, you just debunked the whole heliocentrism, the whole heliocentric paradigm. I mean, models are there to be broken. You know, this kind of rubbish you'll get often. No, it's just you don't have anything. Your whole paradigm is a fraud. And we haven't mentioned the flat plane yet that we're taking all these angles off.
Oh, they totally forgot about the flat plane.
Yeah. See, no matter what you do, you're going to need that flat plane. No matter what you do, that's required, number one. That's step one, flat plane. For any celestial measurement, flat plane. Any measurement of height, flat plane. For GPS, flat plane. You can't go without it. Aerospace, flat plane. You can't not have the flat plane. That's required. That's step one.
Did we lose Nathan?
I don't think so.
Accidentally didn't open my line and didn't mute the others. They've all stopped working. Wonderful stuff. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, though, stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Once again, a massive thank you to Discord and G+. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.